Welcome to ChitChatChai, where we chit-chat.
And have some chai.
We have myself, Yasin, here today, and we have my brother.
I mean,
Do you want to give a little intro about what you do and who you are?
sure. So I'm a second year medical student, and I also make TikTok videos for Supper Remedies.
Nice.
Yep.
So on today's episode, episode 3, we're going to be talking about motivation and taking initiative. And I think this is a massive topic, especially today, in today's age, where everyone's all about the hustle culture. Everyone is now feeling a certain way when they're not hustling. And the difference is more people talk about hustling without actually doing it. So I think one of the areas that we can talk about is how we find motivation, what we're motivated about at the moment. And then we can go into how we took that first step, how we took the initiative, and then some of the common reasons on why people can't take that initiative, or what are some of the things that hold someone back from doing it. So to start off, I mean, what are you motivated about right now? All right. So I mean, what kind of things are you motivated about right now?
So at the moment in medicine, I'm studying about anatomy, where I'm going into depth about each piece of the body, how it works in a certain way. And the reason why that interests me and motivates me to learn more about it is because it reinforces my faith. Because like every single time I look at anatomy, I'm thinking, wow, how is a body that like specific with that specific function? How it's so advanced? I was like, there's no chance it can happen like a miracle. Just by these little chances, we've evolved to have like these certain functions.
That's
So
true.
that's what interests me.
So is there no motivation for you to actually help people? Because you're studying medicine.
To me, it's so far down the line. It's like, at the moment, I'm just focusing on finding a way to enjoy studying to pass the exams.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's interesting. So what were the steps you took? Because I know studying medicine, you study for hours.
Yeah.
And there's so much terminology. There's like a mountain that you have to climb each year, right?
Yeah, just like the painting.
Yeah, just like the painting. So what steps did you take to actually address that? Like to turn something that's such a big challenge into something that you actually want to do?
Yeah, so at the start, I had a really negative mindset where I was given PowerPoints where lecturers just read off the PowerPoints, and it was very, very boring. And I was demotivated the whole time. But then I actually took a step back. I got a group of friends where we all had shared similar mindsets that, look, we need to pass this exam and we need to approach this content in a much more enjoyable way. So we just started testing each other, making into jokes, like fully interactive.
Making it fun.
If we get the question wrong, do 10 push-ups.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. So it was like,
Little forfeits, yeah.
yeah, we've just made it into like a sport. Who gets the questions right now, who understands it, explain it to each other.
Yeah.
That's what like motivates me, because I have a group of people who are like, we're coming at 9 a.m. every day and we're helping each other out.
So you have a similar mission, right?
Yeah.
And I think your situation, or both of our situations, is quite unique because a lot of people talk about the hustle culture and they talk about side gigs and side hustles. We actually are running one,
Yeah.
right? So how do you maintain that motivation? And then when you tell how you do it, I'll talk about mine as well.
How I maintain motivation?
Because you're already climbing this mountain, which is medicine.
Yeah.
And then on the side, you're studying about faith too. And then in addition to that, you're now thinking about this side gig. How do you maintain all that?
One thing that comes to mind is God doesn't burden a soul any more than it can handle, right? Is that how it's?
Yeah.
So I know that everything given to me, I can handle it and I can get through it. But also it's just, because I have so many priorities, I don't see giving up or wasting time as an option. I just know I have to get through this, and I will be able to get through this. As long as I surround myself with positive people as well to keep me going, because you can't do these things alone.
Yeah, exactly.
Like you always need that rebound or that yin yang where you have, like, for example, I have Nabil, well, my two brothers, and at university I have my friends who we study as well. If I was doing it alone, I wouldn't get anywhere.
Exactly. And I think one of the differences is that everyone needs that, Like, in order for you to have motivation and to take the initiative, you need to know what you're working towards. So you need to have that dream goal, right? So a lot of people have dreams about like their career. They have a dream about having a family. They have a dream about, I have some notes, like financial security, like healthy relationships, things like that. What would you say your dream is at the moment?
At the moment is to strengthen my faith and learn more about my religion, because I feel like knowing more about my religion will give me a solid foundation. And also, like, one of my priorities is passing this exam. Like, seriously, if I'm paying that much at university, like, it's a big thing for me to pass this exam. That's it for me, man. And also, in terms of like content for Sub Remedies, keeping it up and running and just being proactive, because I feel like whenever I waste time, it really does eat me. So I like to be active throughout the day. What about you, though?
So I think my dream, so I mean, even understanding what a dream is something you don't have right now, right? And it's an ideal that you want to work towards. So for me, my dream is to have that financial security, not just for us, because Sub Remedies is a family-run business. Like, I have a day job as well. Day job, running a side business. We're also doing this podcast as well. And I think for me, achieving that level of security, not just for our family, but our wider family too. So we have like aunties, we have uncles, like even our parents, they're reaching a certain age where now I feel like it's my responsibility to now think, how can I take care of them as well?
Financially?
Well, I mean, how else am I going to take care of them? Like, I can feed them, but I need to buy food.
Do you think that's the end goal, though, being financially free?
I think that's the end state I want to be in, or that's the next transition state I want to be in. So when people think about dreams, they're like, oh, I want that car. I have no desire for a car. If I have passive income coming in, or I can have investments that prepare me for a better future, that's more my style of investing and thinking. Rather than, oh, I want something tomorrow. Like, I'm not very materialistic to begin with. But I think that's one thing that people need to reflect on is, what is the dream you want? And what does that dream look like? Like, don't just look at it from, oh, I want to achieve this. How do you want that to make you feel? What does that dream look like? And where is that dream going to take you? Because a lot of people think dreams are end states, but I think they're just transition states. Like, say, for example, you buy a car. Oh, I bought a car, amazing. But now you might as well think, oh, where do I want to drive the car? Oh, I want to take it to another country. That's part of the dream, right? You've transitioned into the next state.
I'm in a little dilemma, because although it's really important to like make it in this life, right? As they're saying, financially free, take care of our family, provide for everyone. What bothers me is that there's no guarantee that we'll even like live up to that point where we'll be able to make our family financially free. What's like the most concerning thing to me is that this life is literally a test, and that although it's really good to be financially free, what steps are we doing? What things are we doing to work towards our next life as well that is guaranteed?
Yeah, so I think it's two parts. So I think, because I realized when I ask you about your dream, you anchor yourself into faith, right? Your dream is faith.
Yeah.
But then if you wanted to achieve something in this world, you can still do that whilst following a faith.
Exactly.
Like, because this world is a test, but you're also being tested on how you navigate this world. So if you were to say how you want to navigate this world, you're studying medicine now. What type of doctor do you want to be? Like, how do you want people to feel when you consult them? Because my doctor right now, he just tells me to do blood tests. And I'm getting pissed off. You know?
Our doctor.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, like, that's something that you'll need to think of. And I know you're anchoring in faith as well, but you need to anchor in how you want to navigate this world in addition to faith.
Yeah, it's true.
So let's see what's on the next part. So when people think about a dream, I think it's three parts, right? It's something that you don't have now, because what's the point in having a dream of something you have? Like, it doesn't make sense, because that becomes your reality.
Yeah, that would
right?
be a dream. Yeah.
Exactly. You then have to figure out what is the change that you want to see around you. So this is the external factor of the dream.
Changing environment.
It could be environment, it could be people you're around with, it could be the network that you have, the things that you're studying, the content that you're consuming, the things you're listening to. It could be loads of things, right? I'd say the best way to look at it is to think of all five senses and then think, if I was to achieve my dream now, what do I need to be doing with all five senses to go that way? So it can be like, what things are you going to see? That could be like YouTube videos. What things do you want to hear? Which podcast do you want to listen to? Like people you want to touch, that's a bit weird, but that could be like networking and things like that. And it's a bit of a framework for you to figure out what's the next step.
I've heard some people when they dream about, like they have a dream, they try to like literally picture it as if they were already there and then work their way backwards to see how they would get there.
Yeah, you can do that too, yeah. It's all about taking steps. And then the final thing is, so if the change that you want to see outside is the external factor, and then the final one is the changes you want to see inside. So you hear a lot of people saying the narrative that you have in your head is how you end up talking outside as well, right? So the things that you're saying to yourself, the conversations that you have, imagine you're having negative thoughts all the time, right? You're going to end up like living those negative thoughts. And the power of thought is insane. So our cameraman Yuli, he actually came up with do a little wave. Yeah. He came up with a nice thought, right? So in Islam, you have to wake up before the sun rises. And Yuli doesn't actually set an alarm. He actually makes the intention in his head that I'm going to wake up for that morning prayer. He doesn't set an alarm. He's already made that thought. He's manifested that thought. And then when he goes to sleep, he automatically wakes up at that time. Like without an alarm clock, without knowing what time the sun is going to come up, he just naturally wakes up. So that's the power of thought.
Actually insane, you know, how you do that. Because with me, I have to have alarms set, like 3 alarms to wake me up.
So the next part about this is, so now we figured out what a dream is. So you're sitting on the couch, hopefully listening to this podcast, and you're thinking about what is the dream I want to achieve. You've got that vision in your mind. Now, there's things that stop you from taking that first step. And I've seen this so many times. There's so many people I know that have a dream, that have a vision, that have the ability to achieve it, but they don't take that first step. So what kind of things do you think stop people from taking that first step?
I think one of the things that comes to mind is the unknown. So you don't actually know what will happen next, or that risk. So although there's like a big reward, you don't really want to risk, like for example, money. When you're investing it, there's a high chance you're going to make a lot of money and you're giving everyone that advice. But because it's your money and you worked so hard with it, you just don't really want to risk it one bit.
That's true. I think it's also, so the fear of the unknown is, it's kind of crazy because you study this whole time and you get told that there's a set framework. But once you graduate, no one tells you that you're definitely going to get a job. I know so many people that have graduated from degrees that haven't got the job in that particular field. And I think a lot of people are scared of taking a bet on themselves. Because how many people do you know that have actually betted on themselves?
I think it's because school doesn't really teach you to like believe in yourself and to like invest in yourself, rather invest in other places to like obtain knowledge and get a degree.
Actually, I think because school in a sense is investing in yourself. You are investing in education. But what I think the difference is that school doesn't teach you how to brand yourself. Like, so if you have a skill, like we have a variety of skills between us, right? Like you can make amazing videos on TikTok and they all like do really well. If that was a skill, you wouldn't know how to brand yourself to be able to offer that to others.
Yeah.
Right? And even for me, I do consulting and I solve people's problems, but I don't know how to package that myself to then go into the marketplace and compete with others.
Think how many years did we even like waste in school if you think about it? Because although it wasn't investing in ourselves, how much of that knowledge and information do we apply in the real world?
That is true. Like when was the last time, I was going to say geography, but I actually study geopolitics.
I'd say the quadratic equations, man. How many hours do we spend
memorizing it
to like pass exams and then we use nothing?
That's true. But I think one thing that I do like about education is that because it's so varied, right, you develop different parts of your brain when studying it. Right, so math actually gives you the ability to problem solve. Like learning about geography, you actually learn about the world a bit. You're studying English, if you got a good English teacher, you learn how to communicate and you learn how to effectively structure an argument. So it's all these things that you don't know what you want to do when you're like 10, 15 anyway.
Yeah, that's true.
So like gearing yourself up with all this stuff, it's not the worst thing either.
Yeah.
But I think college is the worst thing.
College
College is just, it's too intense. Like A-levels is too intense. for what it is.
True. I mean, it is only 2 years, but the amount of content they put in that.
Exactly.
I mean, I can't really. In medicine's even more. It's even more messed up. I'll be real with you, because in 1 year you have to do like pretty much A levels in a year.
Every year. That's horrible.
I wouldn't say every year, but it really is tragic.
So we've spoken about the things that stop people taking initiative. So we said it's the fear of the unknown. There's also the fear of failure. That's a massive one. Like, what if I put myself out there and I fail? And what people don't realize is you learn so much from each failure. Like, you can rebound off each failure, and that failure is better. Sometimes I treat failure better than success.
I just remembered something that came to mind.
What can-
Remember the app, man?
Oh yeah. So now let's talk about that,
Yeah,
right?
sure.
So the reason why this topic is important to me is because I've struggled with motivation and initiative myself. So I've come up with at least a fair few ideas, right? Like 3-4 ideas.
Solid ideas that had a lot of potential.
Exactly. Like, these ideas have now become multi-million companies. And the reason that I didn't progress with it is that there's a couple of tiers to it. So it wasn't the fear of the unknown, because I was excited about it. It wasn't a fear of failure,
It was the execution that was wrong.
but there was a seed of doubt that was planted early on. So one thing that I would say for anyone that's looking to take that first step of initiative is, obviously you have an idea, you have a vision, you have a dream. That's yours, right? You need to then figure out who are the right people that you can speak to that can actually validate and believe you in this dream. Like, say for example, I would go to like mum and dad, right? And I'm telling them a dream that they can't even fathom, right? Like, our dad's been 90 for 20 years. He hasn't changed that. And for me to then bring a dream to him, he's not actually, like, if you take a step back and you look at him as a normal fella, he's not qualified to give me that validation. But because they're our parents and they're our caregivers, we go to them to seek that validation. So I think for a long time, I struggled with this a lot, is that I'm now seeking validation from people that aren't qualified to give it.
I think one of the key things that people get scared of failure as well is not having the support from the beginning. So, like, for example, if you had like parents who, even through failure, they supported you rather than just like punished you or gave you a lecture, you'd feel more comfortable in making these failures and learning from it.
Yeah.
But from like growing up, if you're always being told, oh, you did this wrong, and then you got lectured and punished, you would never even want to make a risk. Because
Exactly.
then failure is always, you have a negative approach to it, negative mindset.
Exactly. So a bit of a personal story. So every time I've come up with these ideas, like, you've seen it, right? I get negative feedback from most people in the house. They see that, oh, it's not going to work, or why would you do this, or do something else. And what that did is it planted that seed of doubt in my head, so that when I did fail, I was just like, oh, but my parents said it was going to fail anyway, so yeah, that's fine. And I accepted that. And it's only now that I've realized I need to seek validation from people that, first of all, want to join that journey for me and are actually qualified to give that validation.
And to also give constructive criticism rather than destructive criticism.
What's the difference between the two?
I think it's also how people approach you. So if you're going to someone who, regardless if it's good news or bad news, or when you genuinely ask for help, if they just speak bad about you or genuinely don't want the best for you, I'd say that's labeled as destructive criticism. And I'd say the best advice to counter it is just keep at arm's length away.
Yeah.
Like, if you're in the same household, keep at arm's length away. You don't need to speak about all the things you're doing. To people who are giving constructive criticism, it's when they genuinely want the best for you. Like, even before this podcast, I was told some like positive criticism where I can implement now and improve on myself. And I know that didn't come from a bad energy or bad background, because they genuinely want to see me improve.
Exactly. And I think one thing I want to say to the viewers as well is that often it's the people that are closest to us that disappoint us the most, right? So it could be family, it could be very close friends. I have friends that when I talk about the businesses that we're working on, they just glaze over. They have no interest. And it hurts me sometimes. But what I'd say is whenever, especially if it's to do with close family, you need to, in order for you to grow from that, you need to understand their situation as well. So for our example, like if I propose a big change to my ma, like my ma would naturally want to avoid it. And if you look at her story as well, like change in her life has been like very chaotic. It's been volatile. Like, so I think every immigrant family can relate to that. Like most people that came from South Asia and came to the UK, they didn't come from like happy stories, right? It's always a lot of difficulty that has happened to them. And our ma, she came when she was like 5 or 6.
Yeah, very young.
So like that level of change, it affects people. So now when we propose big changes, like I can see that her initial reaction is fear. And you shouldn't think, oh, my parents don't want to support me or my friends don't want to support me. They have their own reasons and their own like experiences that make them who they are today. And I think it's important to understand that, to then realize that, oh, these people can't validate my current dreams, but once I achieve my dreams, I can show them what I've done.
Yeah, it's up to you at the end of the day to go to people seeking advice, right? But it's just finding out whether it'll be beneficial for you or just playing out negative.
Exactly. So I think for the viewers listening, I'd say the first step you need to do if you're feeling demotivated is to figure out what your dream is. And as I said before, like feel all 5 senses for that dream. What does that dream mean to you? What does it feel like? What does it sound like? What kind of things would you be exposed to? Like really live in it. And then if you're struggling to take that first step towards that dream, then understand what kind of experiences have you been through? Like have you been through a lot of negativity? Have your parents or close ones not supported you in what you're looking at? And then self-reflect. Be like, were these people the right people that I should actually be looking to for that validation? And if they're not, then congratulations, you've made the first step. Now you know what you need to do to take that initiative. You know that the way that you've been doing it previously isn't the way that you should be doing it going forward. And take a risk, because there's a bigger risk in not taking it. The risk of not doing something and the fear of thinking, what if I did do that? What if I didn't order that food? Or what? It could be anything. That fear, that memory will stick in your head for so long that what if will turn into a negative emotion that is very difficult to change. But you can change it. You just need to take the first step.
We can all relate, right? Where we wanted to do something and then we didn't. And then we just ruminate about it. Oh, what if?
Exactly.
But every single time you've done it, it's like, oh well, at least I know the outcome of it.
100%. And that feels much better because you know where you stand and it reinforces that you have taken that step. So a quick story on one of my failed businesses. So I was working on an idea for at least 3 to 4 years and it was an amazing idea. Every person I spoke to said that they needed it. It was like an anti-harassment application. And I'd been working on it for a few years. I got my best friend to try and build the application, but he just didn't have that drive. He didn't have that consistency to actually deliver it. And he was going through his own stories. So I was getting the dopamine effect by talking about it, but I wasn't actually progressing with it. And then a couple of months ago, I saw a company.
Wait, shall we build on that though? How does that work, where you speak about it?
So like I was having workshops with people. I was having conversations with people who like are in the startup space, and I'll tell them my idea and they're like, oh, this is amazing. You just need to build it. You just need to build it. And I was like, I don't have the resource to build it. Can you help me find a way to build it? And it just wasn't happening. I kept facing struggles and challenges. And then eventually, one of my friends, she messaged me saying, oh, your app is in one of the bathroom stalls of a random pub. And I was like, what? And somebody had copied my app designs. Listen, I'm okay. I'm not going to come and sue you. I'm totally fine with it. But they copied my app design, copied my logo, and they started a business in another country, and they'd used my model. And now it's like good on them. It's like at least a 6-figure company at the moment, and there's like a team of 12. Now, if I had that developer, and if we were both able to take that initiative, maybe I wouldn't be doing this podcast now. Yeah. But what that taught me was, because I didn't take that initiative and because I didn't execute it, now that lesson's in my head. Now when we come up with an idea, I'm like, execution. I don't even care what happens afterwards. Let's just execute it.
I think one thing to add to that as well is when you have a goal in mind or like a dream, it's really important to only share it with people who will help you achieve that dream. If you just go around telling people that you have this dream. So let's say, for example, I want to get a six pack. So everyone's saying, oh yeah, I'm gonna get a six pack. I'm gonna get a six pack, and everyone's like, oh, congratulations, your brain's gonna get these chemicals that you already achieved it, and then you just hit all-time low where you're like, oh,
Nothing's
stop
happened.
doing it.
Yeah.
Similarly with your business as well, because you kept on talking about it, you felt like you already made it. Similar to us with like Sober Remedies, we were speaking about it like, oh yeah, we've made it, we've done this, we've done that, and then it just plummeted.
I never said we made it.
I mean, me and Nabil, like we with TikTok, right? When we get a viral video, boom, it shoots up. We've made it, man. That's it, done deal. But then all of a sudden, we just come crashing down because we actually haven't made it. Everyone's looking at us. Oh my days, you're getting this much views.
Exactly.
The reality is it's nothing, man.
It doesn't mean anything, yeah. So the final point is, once you take that first step, the first step itself is, it is a big thing because you've done the self-reflection inside and now you're like, I'm going to take the risk, I'm going to take the first step. But the first step, surprisingly, is the easiest. Like in the first step, you have to, after you do the first step, what's required afterwards is the discipline. Because discipline outworks that, oh, I'm feeling great. Nah, you won't feel great. Like with Sober Remedies, we've had so many challenges where I'm sitting at night, 2 a.m. in the morning thinking, how am I going to solve this? You know, and that's where the discipline comes in. And that's where the motivation plays a part, where regardless of what happens, you're going to keep going.
It's hard to think because discipline, only you can discipline yourself, right?
Exactly.
As much as you can have others, like, for example, your parents lecturing you, like scolding you and all that stuff, oh, you need to study. At the end of the day, it's up to you.
Exactly. There's this lady called Mel Robbins. She made this rule up, right? It's called the 5-second rule. And it's not when you pick up food off the floor. But it's basically when you're thinking of something and you're feeling uncomfortable about it, you only have 5 seconds to make a decision. Mm-hmm. And if you don't act within those 5 seconds, then your brain starts making excuses for you not to do it. So one thing that she said is that if you do the 5-second rule, you'll start seeing the change in your behavior. You start thinking, oh, I need to do this activity, or I need to speak to this person. I have 5 seconds. I need to take that first step towards that person. Once you're on the way, you just go, you just do it. And she says something that's quite funny, is that when you're at school and you're on like a sports team or something and people pick you, no one's going to pick you in life. No one's waiting to pick you. Like everyone that's thinking, oh, I have this amazing idea, maybe something will happen. No one's coming. Like, nobody cares. Like even your family, they can support you, but they can't walk that path for you. So I think that's a nice way to wrap up this podcast. When no one's coming for you, what do you need? You need to have a clear dream, a clear vision. You need to find the people that will support that dream and vision. Find the people that are there to support you and to give you those good feelings that, yeah, what you're doing is right and you can achieve it. And then you need to take that first step. You need to take that initiative. Don't fear the unknown. Fear not knowing fear the known. You know, wow. Like take that risk, don't have fear of failure, have that fear of not trying. Don't have a lack of confidence, because let's face it, how are you going to build your confidence if it's not by doing something? And then finally, after you take that initiative, you'll realize there's a bigger challenge out there, and that's the discipline you need to keep going.
And one last thing to add is also self-belief. To know your worth, to know that you have potential, and to go out of the way and make things come true.
And you know what? Write down in the comments as well. Like if you have a dream or you're struggling to take initiative, like write to us. Maybe we can have a chat, we can help you, and we can see how far you're going to go, because that's the most exciting thing about this. So thank you, everyone. Loved having a chit chat.
And some chai.
We'll catch you on the next episode.